Hey guys, this is Danger Dolan and you're watching the 93rd episode of the World of Warcraft Lore Lessons. Today, we're going to be talking about Gelbin Mekkatorque, known as the High Tinker, or as the King of the Gnomes. Gelbin graduated from Gearshaft University, where he was gifted with a pair of mithril-rimmed lenses from his best friend and fellow graduate, Sicko Thermoplug. Gelbin's first invention, the Mechanostrider, revolutionized travel amongst the world for the gnomes, and provided an effective method of personal transport, finally putting the gnomish race on par with the humans and the dwarves with their horses and rams. From then on, Mekkatorque continued his work, pumping out invention after invention, each one benefiting and furthering the gnomish race and their technology. His inventions included the gyromatic micro-adjuster, the repair bot, the schematics for the deep run tram, even the prototype for the dwarven siege engine. Mekkatorque is a very practical gnome, and unlike other alliance leaders who preferred fanciful or decorative abodes, Gelbin's personal quarters are fittingly practical. Gelbin had a habit of often getting caught up in his inventive process, spending night after night brainstorming ideas, to the point where most of his resting was done within his working space. Not much is known prior to him becoming the High Tinker, but most say that his brilliant invention, the Mechanostrider, led to his rise. He became the first leader and king of the gnomes in the past 400 years. Not everyone was happy about his new position though. When his friend Thermoplug found out about it, he was enraged, and it drove him insane even though he was assigned to be the main advisor to Gelbin. Mekkatorque's election ruined Thermoplug's plans of ever becoming the High Tinker, and as he thought he was the one that deserved the role more than Gelbin. His incredible jealousy eventually led to the downfall of the entire gnomish race. While the gnomes were present in the alliance which was formed during the First War, they were not represented as a faction, rather as a delegate from Ironforge. Seeking to prove themselves, the gnomes became invaluable during the Second War, providing the alliance with their advanced machinery and weapons, planes and underwater vessels. Following the Second War, the rebuilding of Stormwind began. It was evident that to travel to and from the north was difficult, and as such, Magni Bronzebeard of the dwarves had requested Mekkatorque's aid in constructing a faster and easier way to get between the two major capitals. Gelbin began his work on what would become the Deep Run tram. Gelbin designed the schematics for the tram, even creating a scale mock-up model of the tram out of pie tins, and took part in its actual construction as well, making the tram yet another gnomish invention that was invaluable to the Alliance. The tram was so huge and advanced that it is still considered to be one of the best inventions ever made. Between the Second and Third War, Thermoplug and Gelbin started designing the prototype for the dwarven siege engine, eventually being perfected sometime during the Third War. While the gnomes continued to supply their allies with their advanced weapons and machinery, the gnomes themselves had taken very little part in the Third War. When the Burning Legion invaded during the end of the Third War, however, Gelbin declined sending aid to the Alliance in the form of gnomish personnel, much to the Allies' surprise. When the war was over, it was revealed as to why the gnomes had not aided the Alliance in such a dire need. During the Third War, Gnomeregan was invaded by a foul race of highly primitive creatures known as the Trogs, who had broken through the lower reaches of the city, invading from the depths of the earth. Knowing that the Alliance was already busy with the Burning Legion invasion, Gelbin tried to find a way to handle the subterranean invasion without the preoccupied Alliance. Turning to his best friend, Sicko Thermoplug devised a seemingly brilliant plan, and the plan was to release an extremely toxic gas that would kill the Trogs as they invaded. Sicko had claimed to have tested the radiation levels of the gas, which seemed to have evidence of its terminal effect on the Trogs, and had shown Gelbin falsified numbers on its density and volumetric weight. According to Thermoplug's calculations, the gas should have stayed in the quarantined thoroughfares and the lower sections of Gnomeregan, poisoning the invaders as they emerged from the depths, while the gnomes waited safely sealed away in the upper urban tunnels, kept away from the population by Thermoplug's clean wind Domiclic filters. The urgency to deal with the invasion and the confidence his trusted friend showed led Mekkatorque to believe it was the best course of action. However, instead of the toxin eliminating the Trog invaders, it only enraged them and made the situation worse, and it destroyed 80% of the gnomish population, either killing them or turning them into leopard gnomes. After the sudden evacuation of Gnomeregan, Mekkatorque realized that he was betrayed by his own friend and advisor, and that the entire thing was part of Thermoplug's evil plan. His initial plan was to kill off only around 20-30% of the population and then blame it on Gelbin so that the surviving gnomes would elect him as the new High Tinker. However, his plan failed terribly, and the radiation killed way more than it was expected, and the rest of the surviving gnomes went back to Gelbin instead. The gnomes had no other choice than to flee the destroyed Gnomeregan and find shelter in the dwarf capital of Ironforge, thus forming the new district Tinkerstown, while Sicko locked himself up with the radiation, which led to the now mutated and insane Thermoplug taking over the leopard gnomes, ruling them with an iron fist of madness. Now, with the fall of Lordaeron and the tension with the Horde rising, Gelbin enlisted the aid of various Alliance heroes. These heroes ventured into Gnomeregan and came back reporting the death of Thermoplug, only to later find out it was just a clever ruse devised by Thermoplug. It became clear that retaking Gnomeregan would take more than just a small team, rather a large force of Gnomish and Alliance might. Now, in Wrath of the Lich King, after years of planning, Mekkatorque put his plan into action at last. Calling support from not only the Gnomish people, but the Alliance as well, Gelbin led the operation. Mekkatorque led strategic assaults on the leopard gnomes, as Thermoplug attempted to repel the forces with his own. The Alliance succeeded in retaking the outer lands of Gnomeregan, setting up a base within the area before leading the final assault to retake Gnomeregan. Sicko, however, had one final trick. Once the Alliance had reached the center of the city, he unveiled the Irradiator 3000. Unable to disarm the bomb in time, Gelbin was forced to recall the forces to the surface and seal off Gnomeregan while the irradiation cleared out, planning to continue the assault once that had happened. Despite being unable to fully retake the city, Gelbin was happy in the knowledge that Thermoplug had been dealt a blow he would not recover from soon. As the push to retake Gnomeregan continued, Gelbin was eager to inspect the old living quarters of which he had recently retaken. Finding it somewhat odd as to how easily the section was retaken, Gelbin was caught up in his own emotions, remembering the past and the fall of Gnomeregan. After years of having to put a strong image for his people, Gelbin finally let his emotions out, weeping over the loss of his people, feeling somewhat better after doing so. As he prepared to leave, he found his mithril spectacles in the arm of his troll chair, left behind during the rush to evacuate the city. Picking them up, he realized too late that it was a trap set by a Thermoplug, as a tripwire was tied to the glasses. Having ordered his guards away so he could inspect his old quarters, and having forgotten his weapon, Wrench Caliber, Gelbin was surrounded by 3 trogs as Thermoplug gloated via intercom over Mekkatorque's falling for his trap. Gelbin, however, managed to get rid of the trogs unarmed, thus making Thermoplug come out of hiding to face him. He used his traps against him, thus cutting Sicko in half, losing his legs in the process. However, Thermoplug did survive, but Mekkatorque decided to leave him to suffer, as that was what he had deserved for causing so much pain to his people. Following the shattering, Mekkatorque returned his attention to Gnomeregan, which had aired out. He can now be found under a tent at New Tinkerton, the portions of Gnomeregan's surface reclaimed during the battle against Thermoplug. Gelbin led the gnomes in retrieving gnome survivors and slowly reclaiming portions of Gnomeregan, such as the old dormitory. He has been fighting against Thermoplug's irradiated gnome forces, who are bent on keeping the gnomes from rebuilding and finishing the reclamation of Gnomeregan. Mekkatorque was also present during the siege of Orgrimmar and Mr. Pandaria, as he had aided the Alliance forces. While he was there, his people picked up as much goblin inventions as they could in order to study their mechanism. And to this day, the gnomes are still yet to fully retake Gnomeregan, but once they do, Gelbin should be the one to lead them to their full recovery. Thanks for watching yet another lore lesson. This was Danger Dolan, and you can check out my channel down below. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, and also provide feedback on what you think and what you would like to see next. Have a good one.